All right, so moving on, we're getting into some heavyweights here. This guy, 44 wins, 10 losses, 2 draws, and 1 no contest. He was the only undisputed champion in 2 separate divisions in the 3-belt era at cruiserweight and heavyweight, and the only 4-time heavyweight champion ever.
And he survived. And he survived the air bite, right?
Was it Holyfield?
He sure did.
Yeah, it's Holyfield. Yeah, he survived the air fight. Air bite.
Yeah. Warrior. Yeah.
Yeah. He held on too long. That record's not as impressive as it otherwise would have been. 44-10. But he was a great fighter. And Mike Tyson going to jail kind of derailed him as well. He was chasing that fight. He wanted that fight. That was the biggest fight there was. And I mean, obviously, it was still huge when it eventually did happen. But you kind of got that feeling that Mike wasn't what he once was.
Right.
But still, one of the biggest events in boxing. And then obviously he had the fights with Riddick Bowe, and later on he had the fights with Lennox that didn't really go his way.
No. After he beat Tyson, like he went on a string of wins that was really impressive. He was putting down people left and right. Michael Moore, he had a few other fights after that, man.
Don't tell Suge about Michael Moore. All right, no respect for Michael Moore in the Suge household.
But I remember that time, like he was hot, man. Like that was like yes. Tyson, after coming out of prison, like he had a couple fights before they put him in there with Holyfield, and Holyfield took him apart. But Holyfield, that was probably he was at the top of his game at that point, man. He was on fire. Yeah. He was on fire.
Where do we have him? What number is he?
Holyfield coming in at 15.
15. Okay. Yeah, I had him. I had him at 12 on my list.
Okay, yeah,
I had him higher, but my dad told me to put him at 20. I guess he just wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I had Evander at 15, so I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I think 15, 14 is fine with me. He had some big fights, and like you said, he was chasing Tyson because he wanted that fight, Jose, and that was going to be a big. Had that happened before Tyson went to prison, I think he would have got a lot more recognition had he beat Tyson before prison compared to after, because he beat him, but everyone was like, well, he went to prison, so it wasn't really. Mike.
Now it was still a huge.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
But
it would have been like you said a whole other level had it happened before.
And listen, Holyfield is that one fighter that nobody really has anything bad to say about. I mean, listen, he forgave a man that bit half of his ear off. So
Yeah, that's because the other side of that trunk was God Warrior. Okay?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You put your teeth on me, there's no forgiveness. I don't care. I don't care if you leave with a chunk of flesh or not. Get your teeth off of me.
Straight up.
So next up, coming in at 14th, we've got another heavyweight. Overall record of 66 wins and 3 losses. He had the most successful title defenses ever with 25, the longest title reign ever, 12 years. And again, this is an older fighter, the Brown Bomber Joe Louis.
Ooh, okay, this is disrespectful. He needs to be top 5.
I was like, why is it disrespectful? Yeah, I had him in the top 5.
He needs to be top 5.
He should have been
for what he did for the boxing game. Even though he lost to Rocky Marciano, he should absolutely be top 5. He changed the game. He was one of the pioneers of boxing. He revolutionized the fight game. To have him that low, he has to be top 5 for me.
What is he at? 15?
14.
14.
That's so he has to be top 5 for me.
Well, thoughts, the two of you who didn't have him that high?
Well, that's interesting.
Way to throw him under the bus, Brodny.
Well, listen.
I don't know.
Listen. I mean, he wasn't on my list. And again, I gave a caveat earlier. As far as the older fighters, I tried to stick to help me out, right? And then at the same time, make it a little bit more challenging. I tried to do, I guess, modern day fighters. You know what I mean? So he didn't make my list, with respect, though. You know,
With
I know it's
respect.
gonna be somebody listening to this that say, "How the fuck we ain't had?"
Mike, you about to get so much hate from those 9-year-olds that watched Great
right.
Kings boxing. They're about to
Right.
message you and be like, "You don't know boxing? What's going
Right.
on?"
That's the hate I was attempting to get for the Ryan Garcia fans, but we really that went the opposite way. We got people backing us about what we say about Ryan Garcia, but that's for another show. But yeah, I mean, so I didn't have him on my top 25, and that wasn't a dig at him or anything like that. It's just that I tried to keep it in a certain range for myself.
Would you like to comment, Deshaun?
Oh, wait a minute. I had him at number 11 only because, like, I mean, I didn't really watch Joe Louis a whole lot.
Yeah.
I more so did it based off of, like, reading about him and what he did. But honestly, I probably should have had him high. But at that point, I had my top 10 already pretty much locked and loaded. I actually had to change to move him at 11. I just didn't feel like going back and changing my entire list. So that's more so laziness on my part.
I mean, these lists are a very personal thing as well. Like, it depends on your age, obviously, but who you grew up watching and things like that. You know, they when you're talking about a sport like boxing, you get very attached to specific fighters, and it's hard to come off of that.
And I didn't watch him. I watched documentaries about him. I watched things like that. How people really rally. I mean, talking about what's going on with our country right now, people really rallied around him when he fought
Max Smelling.
Max Smelling and everything, and everybody. Come on, back then, we could talk about. There's a lot of racism, but they were like, "Oh man, you're gonna go in there and beat this guy."
He became something of a national hero at that time. And also, just to throw us in there before we move on, I don't know if Jose had any comments, but he also played a role in integrating PGA golf. He was the first black man to be part of a PGA Tour event. He got a sponsor's exemption to actually take part. I mean, he wasn't a professional golfer. Joe Louis.
Yes, Tony Hendo, coaching attire would have made my list. Yes.
All right, so moving on now to the number 13 fighter, which, I mean, to me just looks a little odd after who we had at 14, but that's all right. This guy was he had 6 championships in 5 divisions, started his career with 17 straight knockouts, and one of his fights at the time was the largest combined purse ever at $17 million.
Is this Hagler?
Hearns.
Yes.
Versus Leonard, $17 million. His overall record of 61 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw.
This makes me mad because I know who's going to be ahead of him, but absolutely, Tommy Hearns deserves to be. I had him actually only a spot higher, so this is around the area, but like I already know who's going to be ahead of him, and I just don't agree with it. But I absolutely had him as one of the top of all time, just because what the Ring Kings did, him in that division, and the fact that he was part of probably the best fight of all time. Like when you look at that, him versus Hagler, like that war. Yeah, that was it for me.
I would have put Sugar Ray versus Hearns, the first fight, as one of the best fights ever. That fight was amazing to watch, and to go back to watch it. I love watching that fight. I had Hearns a little lower on the list, but I'm okay with him being here. Look, his 2 biggest losses that I know of and have watched was Hagler and Leonard, and then he got robbed fighting Leonard for the second time, where he should have won that fight, but they gave it to Leonard. Where just if things shake out differently, like he was beating Leonard in that first fight, and it's just Leonard just came out of nowhere in the later rounds and was able to put him away. And obviously the Hagler fight, I mean, that wasn't even a boxing match. That was a freaking street brawl, and
that was just
the hell out of it. Yeah, they just beat the hell out of each other. So Hearns is one of my favorite fighters to watch on YouTube. The man had these long arms, just straight, just gonna hit you in the face, body blows. He was long, he was lengthy, fast, really, really just man. He's a really great fighter at that weight class, and just if things shake out differently for him, if he beats Leonard, if he beats Hagler, maybe we consider him one of the top, boxers of all time. So, but I like where he's at, and he's one of my favorites to watch since I was young. So yeah,
where'd you have him at, Shug?
I had Tommy Hearns. I believe I had him 17 because we haven't mentioned 1, 2, 3.
I have him at 14.
4. So we're on 13 right now. So there's 4 people I had in between him that we haven't even talked about yet, which is really surprising. So I think those 4 coming up.
I had him at 11.
Okay. So we all had him around the same.
Now you know the knock on Hearns, man. That everything that you guys have said is absolutely true. He was a warrior, but he was for as much as he was known as knocking people out, he was known for getting knocked
out. Yeah.
So, but that doesn't. I mean, he was a part of what I would consider one of the golden eras of boxing, man. In that division, like you said, those dudes. That trio, man, and we just talk about that trio, but there was other amazing fights that they were a part of, and other amazing fighters in that division and in that era that they went at. And these guys didn't duck each other or anybody.
Not even all 4 of them. Like you can't. It's hard to separate that group.
Yes.
They exist as a unit.
As a unit. Yeah.
Boxing history.
So of those, he was ranked the lowest. Just because of the chin. I hate to say it, but
I almost put him above Duran because Duran.
I did put him above Duran. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, but wasn't that later in their careers?
I don't think it was that much. I mean, Duran fought for a long time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he fought forever. I'm looking it up right now.
Trying to see.
Where are you at, Roberto?
It was 84 when they fought. 84.
God damn! I was a year old.
I was 4.
But was that?
I wasn't.
The show wasn't thought of then.
So, he TKO'd Roberto.
Yeah.
In that one, and then did they fight again?
No, I think it was just the once.
Just the one fight. Yeah.
Just the one. Oh man, that's so crazy to think about though, because he lost to Leonard and he lost to Hagler, but he beat Roberto.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of puts them all like intertwined because Roberto ended up beating Leonard, but lost to
Hearns.
He lost to Leonard and he lost to Hearns. I don't think he fought. Did he fight Hagler?
No, I don't
Durant?
think so.
No. So like it's kind of weird how like they're all and like Hagler beat Hearns, but he lost to Sugar Ray.
Leonard.
Yeah, so like it's just so crazy how like they all made into a cycle, sort of.
Yeah,
for sure.
One of the craziest things that I realized or found out when I was putting this list together is that Roberto Duran lost to William Joppy.
Yeah, he lost to Camacho too.
Yeah, and Hagler did beat.
Yeah, Hagler did fight Duran. So really, what Mike was saying, you're saying, well, Hearns is the lower the one. Actually, now Roberto
I put Duran as the 4th.
Yeah, Roberto would kind of be the 4th.
I'll save it for when we get to Roberto. I know he on here.
Oh, he is.
All right, so moving on to number 12. Is that we got another heavyweight here. Overall record of 69 wins with 6 losses. He's known for having a great jab. He was the first ever fighter to stop Ali, and all of his 6 losses came in world title fights. That's Larry Holmes.
Larry Holmes.
He's another one that fought forever.
He's an assassin. That's one of my father's favorites.
All right, this is where I get on my soapbox. He is. I do not put him at this level. He's at what do we have him at? 11, 12?
12.
I can't even put him in top 20.
Wow.
I know he had a long record. I know that he was fighting. He was doing all this stuff. But if we're gonna talk about how we talk about Tyson, who did he fight other than
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad? Yeah, but it was not Muhammad Ali that we know of. It
He
was
beat
Muhammad
Leon
Ali.
Spinks.
Okay, Leon Muhammad
Ken Norton.
or Leon Ken Norton win.
Senior at 78.
But I know what you're saying. Like they're not. He's kind of like in between eras a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard to say, hey man, he had all these great wins over these iconic fighters, and because they just weren't themselves that you think of, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's really impressive that even though he came back multiple times and he had a really long career, much longer than it should have been, I think. He only ever lost in championship fights. Like it wasn't like he came back and got worked by some club fighter.
Right.
Like he was always at the top of the division.
How many of his wins were knockouts?
I have to pull it up here. Hang on. Larry Holmes.
44 KOs.
44.
Okay,
44 KOs.
Well, because I know his big thing. I think his big thing was that he wanted to beat Rocky Marciano's record.
Yeah,
And
he came up
never got
one
there.
short.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, he made my top 10, and I think that Larry is one of those fight, and I think B, you put it perfectly. He was in between eras, kinda, but I think that he's one of those fighters that, kind of like what I said about Sweet Pea, like underrated. I guess, and like I guess back to what B said, just because of that crossroads he was in, maybe he doesn't catch as much props as he should.
Yeah.
But I mean, this man has like B said, he only lost in championship fights. He started off 48-0, I think. Shit, he was in 25 championship fight. Like he defended his crown 20. Like again, we were just talking about Russell and these guys now who they're defending their crown. Like you getting props if you defended your crown 4 or 5 times. To defend your crown 25 times, that's like
we're gonna talk about why you hate Gary Russell so much.
I don't hate Gary
because Gary does a lot of talking.
Yeah, I just hate that. I hate the talk, and then it's like, but you wonder why, your name isn't amongst some of the better in that division.
And he's trying to give Ryan Garcia a break.
Yeah,
Mike, I 100% agree. I 100% agree with you, and I think you're absolutely right. The crossroads between coming out from Muhammad, the fact that he beat up Muhammad the way he did, and then Tyson was coming in later. He doesn't get the love he should, and maybe that's my issue because I love Muhammad so much.
Yeah,
I love Muhammad. Like really, I love his career and him as a boxer because that's who I love to watch. So yeah, I think you're right because you can't sit there and be like, oh well, he defended his belt 25 times. That's amazing if you think about it. That's absolutely amazing. The fact that he beat Marvin Frazier in 1 round. Good God, poor Joe Frazier, man. 1 round, he just don't get it last. But I think I don't hate Larry Holmes for that. I think you're right. The in between coming in after Muhammad and coming before Tyson, he just doesn't get the love and recognition that he should for me because how much I revere Ali.
What I like? I like that you're recognizing the reason that you don't give him the love and recognition, and you're still not going to give it to him.
Yeah,
damn right.
But I get it. I understand. I totally get what you're saying, Shug. People watching this are probably going to say I'm crazy for having him as high as I do. But I think our last thought of Larry Holmes is, like B said again, he came back probably 1 too many times. So we're used to as I think you said it earlier, Deshaun, the song where Larry Holmes flat being sick. Yeah. Like we're used to that Larry Holmes, and we don't. But if you go back and look at Larry Holmes coming out the gate, man, this dude was a beast. But so I get it, man. Our last thoughts of him is the old flabby Larry Holmes who came back 1 too many times, and But I think that I feel he's a little bit underrated for what he did in the time that he was hot.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So moving on to number 11. This guy was 149-21 with 9 draws, 3 division champ at once. He held the title in 3 separate divisions at the same time, which when he was fighting, you didn't have all of these in between divisions. There were 8 divisions. So, I mean, you're talking about a big jump, moving up and down. He had the most title defenses in welterweight history in 1937. I mean, I know you're gonna go. I know you're gonna go to Gary Russell again. In 1937, my man was 27-0 with 26 knockouts. And between 37 and 38, he had 27 consecutive knockout wins.
damn.
And that is
Henry
Homicide Hank, Henry Armstrong.
Yeah, Henry Armstrong. Yeah.
I love the name too, Homicide Hank.
Yes.
Yeah, I got no problem with that, man. I don't know, because he's one of the people that I put on my list, right? Like I said earlier, I wasn't gonna fill this list full of 1930s fighters, right? I wasn't gonna do that, but you're defending your title in 3 different divisions at the same time. I can't not put you on there. I can't not put you on there.
And then not only that, I'm looking at the month of February 1938. He fought February 1st, February 9th, February 25th, February 28th, March 15th, March 25th, March 30th. January he fought 12th, 21st, and 22nd. December he only fought twice. November he fought twice. He was fighting twice a month to 3 times a month. You know what? He should be on this list.
His other nickname was you can catch these hands anytime. That's pull up. His nickname was pull up.
His nickname was that's back when you schedule fights like, yo, what you doing next weekend?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm free, man. Let's go ahead and get a fight on. 16 rounds.
God.
I thought I put him on my list, I guess. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. He was
That was an
fighting.
accident.
But see, here also
That was an
is one of the things that's very weird, and I wanted to talk about it earlier, especially with these older fighters. If you go back and look at their records, a lot of their fights, like he has 6 rounds, a 4-round fight, a 4-round fight, 8-round fight, a 6-round fight, and these are not. I'm not talking about how long it lasted. I'm talking about that was the round set.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is where I say you have to kind of even it out with the with that.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Whenever, wherever.
Yeah. Were these parking lot fights?
I'll tell you what. They might not
Outside
have been
the deli.
parking lot fights, but they weren't fights that were planned in advance.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, look, I got 20 minutes, dog. I got 20 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, like one of these locations says outside the Jack in the Box. This one says McDonald's parking lot. Like he was brawling everywhere.
I was telling Jose earlier, Willie Pep, he had a fight in the attic of a feed shop one time, and they told him who he was fighting. He didn't have any idea who it was. I never heard of this guy. I don't know anything about him, and they just told him like, yeah, no, he's not any good, right? And he said it took him about a minute to realize that was wrong because the dude was all over him. Because what happened was he was fighting Sugar Ray Robinson in the attic of a feed shop because Sugar Ray was an amateur champion in New York, and he wasn't paid. He's an amateur fighter, so he would take fights under different names in other states to get paid. And so he showed up one night under a different name, and Willie Pep was like, "Yo, what the hell? What is going on?"
Your name's not Jonathan,
right? Could you imagine? You imagine like you're a guy, and you're like, yeah, this guy named Rick is gonna fight you, and like Mike Tyson walks out, you're like,
who the fuck is this?
Yeah, he sucks. No, he don't.
No, he don't.